Is there a way for an entrepreneur listening to this to know if they have an idea that is contrarian but has a likelihood of being right? Like, how do you really know?
I don't think you do. And I think this is what makes entrepreneurship so tricky, is that somebody has to just take the plunge and hear no 50 times and still believe that it's an interesting idea. Basically will something into existence that is maybe weird at first blush.
So when you think through yourself as like an investor, right, in putting that investor hat on, how do you think through those things, right? It's so easy. You're hearing dozens of pitches a week. And if your job is to essentially to say no to 99% of them, how do you know, okay, this is an idea, and we'll obviously break down agency and execution as well, but like, how do you know this is fascinating to me and I want to learn more?
So you know this, as an venture investor, I'm governed by the power law, right? And this idea that there are a few companies that become really big and drive 90+% of the returns for this weird asset class that we call venture capital. And so I'm looking for those ideas that I believe can truly be breakout if they are right. And that, at least on the idea level, is something that pretty much every venture investor is thinking about, is basically, if this goes right, how big might it be?
But even then, right, to your point, most investors whose job it is to see the contrarian ideas miss it. Airbnb, Uber, right? Everyone who saw Uber was like, oh, like, okay, there's a teeny tiny market for black cars. Who's going to really do that? That's not a real big idea. And then it actually turns out the way to think of it is that you're massively expanding the market. And suddenly, instead of just being able to get a black car to and from the airport, you can get a car anywhere you want, anywhere in the country at any time. And now car services are a market that's, 100x in size. But most investors miss that. What makes an investor great at seeing those things? Is it just because, once again, people miss it?
It is a strange job. And to your point, we basically have to bet on, if this goes right, what might it be, rather than, I think the common mindset is like, oh, okay, well, will this work or not? And so there's a little bit of a question of, okay, could this actually expand the market? And that's when I think about and I focus on consumer investing. When I think about some of the biggest investments of all time, they are market creator companies. And Uber is expanded the market. Airbnb created the market of peer-to-peer real estate. Coinbase created the market for, basically banking with crypto. So I think about those and I lean into those ideas that maybe most investors, if they did a market analysis, would say there's no market here.
So this is the idea part. And I assume, do you think a lot of ideas, do they come from, where do ideas germinate from? Right? So you certainly have some founders who it comes from personal experience, they learned it, they saw it in school, whatever it is. And then you have other founders who are just multi-time founders, right? You're a multi-time founder. So you've had 3 different ideas that are big enough that someone's willing to pay you some money to buy that idea from you. Where are the fonts of wisdom where those ideas sort of came from for you, for all 3 of your companies?
It comes in all sorts of different ways. And there isn't one heuristic for finding a great idea. Some people, it comes to them in the shower based on some personal experience. Some people, they're very analytical and they look at the market and they see trends and can just extrapolate into the future. In general, though, that everyone needs to basically paint a vision of the future that could be true. That's I think the unifying component of the idea is there is some path to this version of the future where, hey, we have a marketplace for peer-to-peer drivers, or a marketplace for real estate where you can short-term rent your spot and make it feel viable.
Okay, so if you as an entrepreneur, you're starting out, you have an idea, you play that out into the future, you think, hey, I can see the future. This can be huge. Obviously, lots of things need to go right, but I can see this being a real thing. Then you mentioned agency. So walk through like the agency piece for someone and by that, do you mean like the guts to try to go build this, essentially, to say like, I'm going to go take a shot? How do you define agency, and what does that look like then as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think about this 4 quadrant chart, basically, where it's like some people can see problems and some people have agency, and those people become entrepreneurs. There's some people who can see problems but don't have any agency, and those are basically comedians, right? Like, hey, isn't it weird that this, I have to pay my CPA $1,000 to basically not tell me what taxes to avoid. Or then most people actually don't see problems and have no agency, right? So that's kind of like the regular people who go about their day-to-day.
Or I'd add you also have like people who are almost bad employees who have lots of ideas, but basically they just complain all the time and they take no agency around any of it. And those are even worse. It's just like, I hate it when you tell me you're a problem. I rule we have in my company, Chores, we say, hey, we love ideas. We love you to come up with questions. But like when you ask a question, you need to come up with, hey, here's my potential solution for it as well.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's the common classic adage of being a good employee is bring solutions, not problems.